Hey everyone, how's it going? Good to see everybody out there. We are live. I have um, I have Phil Blake actually in backstage right now. He is getting his headphones in, and we are. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right, so we're getting everything ready, getting everything set up. As we go, I want you to put your questions in the comments below. We'll be able to see them. If I can answer them, I will. Terrence, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Uh, as we go, we're going to ask some questions. We're going to kind of follow a pace here. But when you ask your questions, we're going to get both my aspect as well as Phil's aspect as well. So what I'm going to try to do is get everybody. We're going to go through this and kind of go with the flow like we always do. And without further ado, let me announce Phil Blake to the stage here. And how you doing,
Oh,
Phil?
what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm
I'm
doing
great.
all
I'm great.
right. Awesome, man. So happy to have you. First off, thank you for coming here and going live with us.
Of course.
So I'm really happy to have you. And what we're trying to do is give as much value to the Facebook group as well as my YouTube channel as much as possible, and kind of go from there. So, um, you know, so
Let's do it.
first off, what I'm gonna do is, who are you? What do you do? How did you get started? And a little bit about how you got started and where you're at right now. Just a quick summary. We'll get into the deep, you know,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, excellent. So I'm Philip Blake. I'm the owner of Stride Investment Group, where we started as just wholesalers, but we wholesale, we burn properties, we do some commercial stuff, both with apartments and then fast food restaurants. A lot of times people throw out like the fact that we did 100 deals starting 2019, and
Hmm.
we kind of kept it up. But the volume is really not that important to me, if you ask me. Um, how did I get started? Started back in 2013 from a buddy of mine who had a mentor in his life, just reading a couple of books, and it was a 1031 exchange book. And it kind of really just started from there. So I've been doing this a long time. I started off getting a mentor to be able to level up step by step. So
Okay,
start
so on that, so you started in what year?
2013, really like 2013
2013.
and a half. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So that's long before I started. So, I started this about a little bit under 2 years ago. So,
Okay, nice.
so come a long way since then, learned everything. But so with that, how did you first? So you said you got started by reading a 1031 exchange book.
hmm
Let's go into detail a little bit about your process, your journey of how you got started.
Okay. Well, the book wasn't anything special. I actually don't even remember the name of it. What it was
Okay.
is, like I said, it was a buddy of mine who someone in his life told him like about real estate, having rental properties. So he just happened to get this 1031 exchange book. And it wasn't just that book, but I think that was like the first book that we read.
Yep.
Later in life, ended up reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, which actually helped things click a lot more. But that was the book that was like, oh, okay, you can do this to not pay taxes and on
Yeah.
real estate, creating the most
Oh
millionaires and
yeah.
all this type of stuff. So it was kind of just, I didn't get bit by the bug right at once. It was just little bits and pieces. So really in
Hmm.
2013 was all just learning for me. And it wasn't the
Okay.
entire year. I think I started maybe halfway through and was just learning, like reading some books. Okay, found some guys that I want to follow on social media, or it's not so, but like YouTube and YouTube University, and just seeing who I resonate with. And then as I watched them, I learned more and more about what is possible, how some of
Hmm.
the how, and ultimately end up taking the leap with one of them to be able to go deeper and really learn how to do the business on a high level.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So,
Mm-hmm.
so you started in 2013, and you said you had a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get a hold of that mentor? Did you pay for that mentor? Like, because there's different processes like, you can grab a mentor by relationships, you can grab a mentor by paying for one. How did you
100%.
come across that?
All right, so that's good points, good questions. So we can go over to about some of the different ways to find a mentor. For me, like I said, I went to YouTube University and just saw who was talking about doing deals, and I just really just picked someone that was who resonated most with me. First, just went out in the YouTube. I think it was like two or three different people that I was like, okay, I was watching their stuff pretty consistently, and then there was one that I gravitated towards more. So I was just looking for opportunities. I don't actually think he was doing like a maybe he was doing like a big coaching thing. I'm trying to remember, but I remember I
Hmm.
got in touch with him because he's on YouTube, and then ultimately I did pay. I paid him some money. It's like, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to pay at some point.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't,
yeah.
I'm not gonna say that it's all like has to be payment like cash,
Hmm.
but you got to pay, right? You're gonna have to pay with your pocket. You're gonna pay with your time, pay with your feet,
Yeah.
your activity. So
Oh yeah.
I. And at the time, I'm working full time and actually in school full time. So I had some extra money to be able to pay him, but I was still skeptical about it. Actually, I
Okay.
remember it was $3,000. He like even gave me a CRM and stuff like that to use,
Okay.
and my credit limit on my credit card was like $1,500. And I wanted to make sure I put it on my credit card because I'm like, oh man, this could be a scam. I never met this person. I'm never gonna meet him. It was just all online coaching type of thing.
Yep.
But once I got into it, I saw that it was like, that was like a scarcity based mindset where
Yeah.
you think,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
this person over here act like I'm that important that
Yep.
somebody is gonna come and try to just scam this little old me. And when you look at the bigger picture of how much more is possible
Oh yeah.
by them actually working with you, by let's say JV on deals or just mentoring you in general, and then you got your whole reputation. So I ended up learning so much from him. I learned quite a bit. Pretty much, I mean, a
Hmm.
lot of stuff I learned from him still apply today, and
Yep.
he's actually still doing stuff today, by the way. But
Yeah.
he's a good mentor.
That's awesome. So you got started with doing the mentoring. You mentioned you were in school. What were you in school for?
Oh, so good. I guess to give you a little bit of background. So I'm a mechanical engineer. That's I went to school for. I actually got hired as the mechanical engineer before I actually graduated.
Hmm.
So that's just one of the principles, like doing more than what you're paid for. And this
Yep.
is like you hear me talk a lot about different principles and stuff that apply to just success in general, not just real estate, just business life. And and at this time, that was just something I was used to doing. I would always put forth a lot more energy, a lot more effort to getting the right
Hmm.
outcomes. So anyway, the company I was working for, they saw that, offered me the job before I graduated. So I was actually still in school getting my degree, but actually kind of doing the work at the same time. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's a long answer to yeah, I was in school for mechanical engineering.
Wow. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's the thing. Like, because my day job is I'm in the automotive field as well.
Okay.
So I actually was going to school for being an electrical engineer.
Nice.
And the issue I had was I came to a crossroad. I did my 2 years at the community college, and I was about ready to go to university. And I'm like, well, I got a lot of bills coming up. I got a lot of things coming up, and I'm like, I started doing wholesaling, and
Nice.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a semester, see how it goes, see what go. If it turns out great, if it turns out great, then awesome. If it turns out uh, horrible, then I can always go back to school next semester.
Right, right, right.
So turns out I ended up, from January. I wasn't going to do a summer semester, so basically all the way through the summer, I ended up making, you know, uh, I think me and my partner together, we made about $40,000, and I was
Nice.
like, yeah, I got bills. I got things that I need to get taken care of. I'm good
Yeah, I'm gonna keep
for now.
doing this. Right,
Yeah, I'm gonna
right.
keep doing this. So,
Of course.
you
That's awesome,
know,
by the way. It took me a long
yeah.
time.
So with that, it's kind of been like I know you're. I know the struggle with, because I work with engineers all day long still on my day job. So
Yeah.
I understand that. And the good
Yeah,
thing is
we're
that
not easy to work with.
no, the good thing is that you have an engineering mindset. So the processes that you have, they come, I don't want to say they come easy, but it's more familiar to you.
Yep.
Because as an engineer, you got to think about the processes and the schedules and things like that, and you think about the numbers. So
100%.
how much how much schooling do you need to actually do this and to do what me and you are doing? Would you
Mm.
say that a new person should need or should do?
I'll put it like this. I'm in one of the groups that I'm in. I was actually just looking at this like maybe 30 minutes ago.
Hmm.
It's a girl. She's 16 and she's closing her first deal November 14th. And this she's gonna flip it.
Wow.
It's yep. So yeah, you don't need a college degree for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
even in some thoughts, I even think about it like, man, I probably wasted too many years. It took me like 6 years, 6.5 years to graduate, partially because I was, so we could talk about that, but I was actually interning and co-oping throughout the
Hmm.
entire year. So I was semester on, semester off. But ultimately, it
Yep.
took me like 6.5 years, and I didn't, when I look back on it, I was like, man, if I actually would have started like where I started at like 23, 22
Yep.
at that time, I mean, we all could say it, but I'm like, I would have been significantly further ahead. Even if I went to
Oh
college
yeah.
for a year and just kind of messed around with it and learned
Yep.
about, maybe getting some rental properties, something like that. But at that time, I had no clue. It was not even a thought in my
Yeah.
mind at all, So,
No, 100%. And that's the thing that I think that makes us unique is that, we need to figure out how to do things. And how we figure it out is by doing it. So you
hmm
learn by doing it. You don't need a college degree. I didn't learn anything about this in college whatsoever. I
right,
learned everything
100%.
I I learned everything that I did on YouTube University. I didn't do any mentorship, nothing. The mentorships that I did was called JV deals.
Nice,
So all
nice.
my any JV deals I did, it was actually my first couple deals. I JV with a local guy, Todd Chun. Shout
Okay,
out to him. He did what I'm doing right now for people, and he's
nice.
still doing it. So great guy, great person to work with, and he helped me out. Like we 50-50 JV'd on a few deals, and he walked me through the process of what was going on. So super grateful to him.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, that's an excellent way to learn. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to get into it. It's good, like learn it like by just getting in there,
Yep.
just getting in there. That's there's nothing wrong with that, right? So it's just
Right.
it's not a right or wrong or good or bad. It's just like it's different. When you
Hmm.
get into a situation and let's say you get a mentor that's going to help you guide you. In this case, even your JV deal can kind of be considered
Yep.
mentorship. He may not have been your exact mentor, but
Right.
you got some form of mentorship. But when you got somebody to guide you and know the steps that are coming or they've been there, done that, it just makes the path so much easier to navigate the very many minds that are in the field, when you're operating
100.
something. And
Yeah.
when you don't have that guidance, you'll still make progress. Whether you have mentorship or you don't have mentorship, you're going to
Hmm.
fail at some point, or temporary failure or failure
Yep.
is what I call it. You're going to have that, but some of those are avoidable. And when you have that guidance, okay, I can avoid X or I can avoid Y, and maybe I make a mistake up here versus making a mistake that was down here, 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 and here. But
Yep.
even so, even with mentorship, you're going to have those mistakes, which is good. But even just like you said, taking action, getting in there, because like
Yep.
as an engineer, a lot of stuff goes into business that it's not even just real estate. But one of the things is really
Yep.
knowing yourself. You got to be able to know yourself. And one of the things I say is that, like for me as an engineer, I know I'm more practical, right? Which
Yes.
typically means I'm slower to take action, slower to make decisions and stuff. Which it's not necessarily, it has its pros, but it has its cons, right?
Hmm.
Generally speaking, if I'm going to quote unquote fail at something, it's because it's going to be due to moving too slow or lack of action. Whereas if you out there
Yep.
taking action, you making stuff happen, maybe you moving too fast. but you're gonna have your own dilemmas that you run into. But the
Yep.
fact is, you're gonna make those mistakes and be able to move forward as well and learn from it and progress.
Yeah, I had to learn that in the beginning. And it took me 4 months to get my first deal because of that. I was learning, practicing, doing everything I could.
Hmm.
And there was a certain point where I was like, okay, something's got to break, something's got to give. And I'm like, okay, I kept taking deals to him and be like, hey, do you think we can make this happen? And finally
Hmm.
it did. So something
Nice.
stuck. Now, so you run a wholesaling business as well as an investment business, basically. So you do buy and holds, you do wholesales, you do regular wholesaling as well in your
Yep.
business.
Yep. We didn't
Um,
start there, but yeah.
right. So tell me where you started in the business and where you're at right now.
So again, as I said, when I started, at least in my mind, it was all just wholesale. I was looking for that quick dollar. How can I make some money on a deal? Oh, it's supposed to be, people say wholesale and they
Yep.
think easy, simple, as whatever. So that's what I was focused on. My first mentor actually taught me not to like we didn't just like right now we have a system, and I'll talk
Hmm.
about that as far as scale, and it's set to be able to wholesale deals, and we tacked on the other stuff at the back end. But when we set up, it was when I wasn't doing all of that. I was get a deal, figure out the situation, what's going on, and figure out which box it can fit into. Is it a creative
Gotcha.
deal, some type of seller finance deal potential? Should we be wholesaling it, doing a little work, put on the market? Is it just a wholesale deal? Like he would have us fit it into those boxes. So that was
Right.
really like the first couple of years, one man show just doing it. But then as I learned, it's easier to scale when you ultra focused on one thing. So we've been primarily just wholesalers. Like, hey, this is what we do. We wholesaling properties. And as we got really good at that, got systems and process people and stuff in place to do that well, we can tack on these other models, whether it's
Hmm.
seller finance or bird strategy, et cetera. So that way, it just all flows into one vertical.
100%. So how did you develop those processes? And can you
Hmm.
talk a little bit about them? You don't have to go in detail. That's up to you, how detailed or how much you want to talk about your processes.
Yeah.
Because I think that would help some of our audience here as far as whether even if you're a new wholesaler or a current wholesaler just trying to develop their processes at the moment.
Hmm. Yeah, so okay, so I'm gonna say a few different things on that. So as far as your first question was where did I develop the processes? So after that first mentor, that he taught me how to invest and do deals, but I didn't have anything really streamlined. Everything was just always different every single time.
Hmm.
So once I had 3 or 4, 5 deals I was working on at one time, I was pulling my
Hmm.
hair out. Man, I got to do this. I'm busy. I'm working at schoolwork. I didn't, it was like, dude, and it was very stressful up here
Yep.
because it utilizes a lot of the RAM in your brain.
Oh yeah.
Um, Hence why now I put everything in like Evernote or OmniFocus, some type of external brain to keep track of stuff. Otherwise, I forget. But the point is, that's where it was. But so a few years into investing, I realized like, man, last time I had a big step was when I got a mentor. So I started listening to some podcasts. Came across this one podcast. Long story short, ended up joining this mastermind. It's like 30K or 25K, which was a lot. Right, that was a big deal
Yeah.
for me. You know what I
That's a
mean? That was,
lot.
yeah. I'm not trying to just just throw it out there like, oh, it's whatever. No, and actually we were making money, but it
Yep.
was like it was still a lot. So when I spent that, I was like, oh man, I gotta get this right, man. You know what I mean? Because I really didn't have it to spend like that. So I'm like, all right, we got to make it work. So anyway, that investment ended up paying off tremendously. I'm still actually a part of that mastermind. But where did I get the processes? Really, a lot of it was just really copying and being around the right people. Once you're around the
Yeah.
right people, people are givers. You ever heard of the go giver mentality? Um,
No, I haven't.
it's a book. Just read. It's called Go Giver. The Go Giver.
Okay.
Excellent book. But basically, it's talking about living in a state of abundance. Actually, I might even
Okay.
have it behind me somewhere. But living in a state of abundance. And what I find is that the further you go up, the more people are willing to give. The biggest thing is
Yeah.
was getting in the room, because once you're in this room, everybody in there are serious. Everyone in there is pre-qualified, so people are more willing to give information because we're all peers. We're all thinking on the same frequency. So okay, I know that if you're in this room, you're not just somebody who's right here to waste my time or whatever. You guys, we're all serious. So anyway, a lot of
Yep.
people willing to help. They're sharing resources. So I took bits and pieces of people's resource systems and kind of constructed it into what I thought what works
Hmm.
well, which is what got us to where we're at today. So that's where I got our process. You want me to go over what our process looks like?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and and by the way, you know, there's a Brad Foley said external brain loves the phrasing. By the
Oh
way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And literally, I mean external brain. Like for me, especially because I remember if we go back all these years, school full time mechanical engineering, I work full time, so I'm on all the time thinking.
Yep.
Then you're doing deals. You got too much. It's someone told me once that you could think of your brain as like a computer, like you got the
Hmm.
memory, like your storage, which is like your memories, and then you got RAM, which you only got 8 gigs, 16 gigs, whatever it is. But when you utilize that RAM that you have available, processing little stuff, like you ever like for example,
Yep.
I don't know if it's somebody on the call may be in this place, but I remember times where I would catch myself just sitting there thinking about all of the things that I got to think about so I don't forget about the stuff I'm supposed to be doing. Like, oh, what's I supposed to do again? What's I supposed to do? And I
Yeah.
sit there and it was like it lowers your performance mentally. And you
Yep.
write stuff down on this little sheet of paper, and then you lose it or put it somewhere. So what I did was develop a whole system. They got a lot of systems out there. If you're an Apple user, OmniFocus is good. Evernote is good. Even the Note app I use iPhone, so um,
Hmm.
no, even that one's pretty good. But something that you have a system where you know all the stuff that you have to do, you can just do a brain dump every week, get everything clear, and you'll be surprised how relieving that is to say, okay, this is everything on my plate because it feels like so much when you keep it up here.
Yeah.
But then when you write it out on the paper, you're like, oh, that's all I got to do. And now your brain is free. Now you don't have
Yep.
all these different apps and games and stuff open on your computer at this point. You just focus on that one thing, and your computer quote unquote processes much more efficiently at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. And trust me, I come across that a lot actually. Between my, because I'm a technician,
Hmm.
but I kind of go in between doing technician work and a little bit of engineer work, so, and I, and then going into real estate and doing all this real estate stuff. It's like, it doesn't say, okay, the real estate kicks in at 4 o'clock and anything
Yep,
before
exactly.
then, it doesn't work that
Yeah,
way. I'm
yeah, it
getting,
doesn't work.
I'm getting calls at 12, 11 o'clock, in the
Yep.
middle of the day. And I'm like, I'm at work right now. I can't. I'll get back to you. you know.
Yeah,
So
exactly. That's exactly how it works. And then not even just with the external stuff coming in, but also just with your thought processes, right? It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
your brain it doesn't just it's when you shifting back and forth like that, it can be very draining. So
yes.
that's what it was when I first got hired as a technician as well, by the way. So
Okay.
hmm
So yeah, let's go over a little bit of your processes that you do have, and kind of go from there.
yeah, it's actually I mean it's nothing really like it's super simple, but I guess sometimes there's wisdom in simplicity.
Hmm.
Um, so virtual wholesale model. So we virtual wholesale deals. I remember it must have been 2019 because that's when we started doing virtual deals. But we did a virtual deal. It was literally right across the street from my parents' house, and I never went there. It was so that was pretty funny, and this happens all the time now. Like it's deals that's like 10 minutes away. Some of the guys, hopefully, I don't know, they may be in your group, but they give me flack for not going to properties.
Yeah,
And
I know one of them.
yeah, right, yeah, yeah. He gonna give me he gives me a hard time. But
Yeah.
so it's a virtual model. So we don't go to properties. We lock up all deals over the phone. We do. I take it back. We go to properties. We don't go to properties until after we have a contract in place because
Okay.
that just allows us to be more efficient, right? It was a time when I thought, a lot of people say, "Oh, I got to get in front of you, belly to belly. I can close much better." Which,
Yep.
in fact, I actually agree with. I actually agree with that. That if you in front of someone
Hmm.
and we're on the phone with them, you probably could build right rapport. You can do et cetera if you're a good salesman, and you probably win that deal. Where the over the phone thing kicks in is we make up for with volume, right?
Hmm.
And then also makes things like hiring and all this other stuff a lot easier because you can hire talent from all over the country. But the big thing is like if you look at an acquisitions rep, some of the guys like if you're going on deals right now and that's
Yeah.
all you do all day, you may be able to go on to 4 to 5 appointments in one day. And that's a packed day. 30 minutes
Mm-hmm.
driving, probably an hour, hour and a half with the seller, and then 30 minutes to wherever else you got to go next. Like, that's a packed day. So even if you close at a 25-30% ratio, which
Mm-hmm.
is, that's a really good salesman at 25-30%.
Right.
That's good conversions. Okay, so I mean, you're looking at, maybe one deal every time you had those 6 appointments, and it's taking you the entire day. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking to, 4, 5, 6 people per hour, and we're quickly getting qualified no's as well. Getting the no is
Mm-hmm.
just as important as getting the yes, right? For those people that
Yep.
are not selling the property, you're not a good fit for them, etc. We want to understand that. We just want to know that quickly. We don't want
Just
to
move
find
on
that
to the
out.
next one, you know?
We don't want to invest a lot of time and energy to get that type of no. Same thing goes back to marketing as well. We don't want to spend big dollars to get no's unless we have
Right.
to. So the processes. So I'm gonna give you an overview. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's really simple. It's nothing like. So we got marketing, right? So that's your direct mail, your cold calling, PPC, all those type of things. That
Yep.
gets prospects coming into the door. Once they come in, depending on where they come from, if it's a pre-qualified source, meaning they have already checked a certain number of criteria, it goes directly to somebody that we call a closer, who is in position to talk to that person, get all the information, and close the deal. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're not a pre-qualified prospect that's coming in, they're going to go through someone that we through a position that we call lead intake or follow-up specialist. These
Okay.
individuals, literally all they do, they take in the colder leads, qualify them. Where are you at in your buying or selling journey? And once you reach a certain point, okay, now you go to the closer. If you're kind of iffy, you may still go to the closer. And if you're no way in hell type of thing, you're not going to go to closer. We're just going to follow up
Mm-hmm.
with you at a later date until perhaps you are. Um, so that's where leads are coming in at.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. And also that same follow-up position, they're also responsible for going back through all of the leads that are in our system. It's
Mm-hmm.
like 16,000, 14,000 of them. They follow with those consistently. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people fail because a lot of people don't follow up. And that's where you get
Yep.
majority of your deals is through the follow up because you never know where someone's at on their journey. So they do that. Okay, so let's say the deal comes in, goes to the closer, boom, they get a contract. What happens after that? It's an e-sign contract. They told us
Mm-hmm.
the condition of the property. We pretty much just take their word for it and we figure out everything else in the back end. Surprisingly, most people are pretty honest. They're not always accurate, but they're pretty honest, meaning they're not trying to like withhold things. We actually
Right.
just had one case like that, but very rarely. So anyway, after that, it goes directly to our transaction coordination team who reaches out. Hey, you just spoke with such and such about this property. And then they set expectations from there. I'm the TC. I'm gonna take you from contract to close. Here is our
Mm-hmm.
3 phases. We're gonna, come out to the property, take a look at it. We're gonna do our due diligence, and then we hit a fork in the road before we go to close or not. And that's it. We just want to make sure the seller is always understanding what's going on and keep them
Right.
updated in a timely fashion, right? And then,
So on
go
that,
ahead.
this process here,
hmm
do you
hmm
tell them that you're wholesaling it? Or like how do you go about telling them that you're wholesaling it?
Yeah, so I can talk a lot about that because that was a big thing when I first started. Wholesaling, I thought was a dirty word. If you was a wholesaler, that was like an insult. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Wholesaler. What do you mean? You just a wholesaler? I didn't want to tell people I was. I mean, funny enough, I wasn't just doing wholesaling, but I didn't want to tell people I was wholesaling because it was like, oh, you're. And then I started learning, oh, no, this is actually you can scale this. Yeah, we're wholesalers. That's what we do, which is more of the thought process today, it seems.
Right.
But then years ago, it wasn't like that, man. It was like, at least for me, it felt like, man, I was kind of trying to be sneaky. If I was I didn't want anybody to know, like, oh, I just wholesale this property. That's how I make the money. I'm
Yep.
just wholesaling. I'm just wholesaling until I'm able to flip. And oh yeah, you're flipping a property. You're doing something down the hole. Now you're
Yeah,
a real
yeah, yeah.
investor. But you wholesale, you're not a real investor. So it was like that. So for you guys who think that, that's not the case. But if you think that, it actually that frequency rubs off on the seller,
Mm-hmm.
and they can pick up on that stuff. So to answer your question, do we tell the seller, yeah, we're going to wholesale this property today? No, we don't do that. I mean, we actually haven't done that in a long time, even when I was still a one-man show, because I learned because you can do things that piss people off if you don't
Mm-hmm.
communicate the right way. So we don't just tell them like, oh yeah, we're going to wholesale this property, because no one really cares. Like it doesn't matter. Like imagine, um, I don't know. Just think of any other
Yeah.
retail transaction. When you go buy something from Best Buy, they don't tell you, well, we actually got this cable that you're buying for $29. We actually got it for 52 cents, and
Hmm.
we're just wholesaling. We're like, we got it from a wholesaler, and now we're going to sell it to you. They don't. And do people care?
Yeah.
No. Right? You got to remember, we're the buyer in this case as well, right? A lot of times, real estate seems to be the only thing where the seller buyer mentality
Yep.
is flipped, right? You're doing me a
Hmm.
favor if you allow me the privilege of being able to buy your house, right? That type of stuff.
Yeah.
But so it's flipped. But point is, yeah, we don't, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't come up. At the end of the day, this is what we said we're going to buy the property for, and at the end of the day, did that happen? And we don't even tell them
So,
that the deal's for sure is going to close. It's due
okay.
diligence.
So how many do you, because you get these locked up virtually, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I've dealt with a lot of virtual wholesalers here in Detroit and things like
Yeah.
that. So where they lock up these deals way too high, and because they're doing comping all wrong, because me and we're from Detroit area. Comping
Yeah.
in Detroit is very different.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. For sure.
So how do you go about training your people to comp it right, or just, okay, it's not exactly the seller up talked it, and it's more of a disaster than it is? How many what's your average rate that you have to go back to the seller and be like, I need to get a price reduction?
The price reduction, that's a good question. We don't measure how, like a percentage, like with some of our other
Hmm.
KPIs, but it's not the reason why we don't is because it's not, you know what, we probably do measure. I take that back. I'm sure that we got it. It's not a high KPI that I look
Yeah,
at when our
yeah.
ops team run those numbers, but it's not a big deal for me because that's part of our strategy. Now,
Yep.
to give the guys who are out of state coming in virtually into Detroit, I try to give them a little bit of slack because I think Detroit is one of the hardest markets, and similar markets where
100.
that whole block,
Yes.
because so you do it here. When we go to other markets, comping is like super easy to do, and
Yeah.
because it's not as cookie, it's more cookie cutter.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, that being said, as far as like the whole virtual thing, so the retrades or the renegotiations, how do we deal with that? Number
Yeah.
one, they're, in my opinion, they're easier.
Yeah.
If I ask you on the front end, Mr. Seller, what's the condition of the house, and you tell me this, that, and the other, etc. But this
Hmm.
literally just happened, and it doesn't happen very often, but it just happened a couple weeks ago. And then we look at the property. Wait, you said the house was renovated in 2018, the bathroom, the kitchen, the flooring, and all this other stuff, and the place didn't even have a kitchen,
Hmm.
right? That makes the
Yep.
retrade very easy at that point. We're just like, hey, Mr. Seller, remember when we talked about prices and you told me the condition, there was everything was remodeled 2018, or you don't got a kitchen, you don't have a bathroom, or the bathroom's falling apart. It doesn't like things were renovated in 2018. We're probably gonna have to be lower than what we anticipated. And sometimes people don't like it. Sometimes people are okay with it. But the,
Yeah.
the big thing is we just be as transparent as necessary. Because sometimes when you try to, I see we got a question, but when you try to explain
Yep.
something too much to someone, like if you go to the doctor doesn't
Yep.
say, you say, I got a pain in my shoulder. Okay, I got to make this incision, that incision, and then I got to give you this, that. They don't explain, because you're going to look at them like, okay. But they tell
Just
you,
do
like,
it.
hey, look, yeah, they're going to say, okay, I got to do a surgery. Here's what's going to
Yep.
happen. And you'll be good in 3 weeks. Okay, that's the result. That's all I need to know. So we treat it
Gotcha.
that way.
So
Go ahead.
Brad was actually saying, and the reason you can't see the name on here is because it's actually from the Facebook group.
Okay.
So I got it on my phone over here, so I can see who's actually giving it over. But
Okay. No worries.
he's saying how many people talk to the seller, and how many handoffs. And what I'm interpreting what you're saying is you got the closer, okay? So you
Hmm.
got the person who may talk to the person initially, the initial saying, yes, I'm ready to sell. Then that goes to the closer, and tell me if I'm wrong at any point. Then it goes to the closer. They go to close it, and they get the contract signed. Then it goes to the TC.
Hmm.
Okay. and the TC will follow it all the way from that point all the way to the closing, and
Yep.
they'll set up the people. Am I right?
Yep. So exactly. So the big thing about this question, which is an excellent question, it's rapport. It's not even about how many handoffs. I mean, from a waste perspective, you do want to minimize that, but it's not about how many handoffs. It's about what that client, what that seller feels, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, on certain deals, certain deals, it may go, the lead may go through a follow specialist. He may talk to them twice for like 2 minutes, and then it goes to the closer, and they have a deep conversation. The seller always remembers the closer because they're there
Mm-hmm.
to build rapport, etc. So they, in the seller's mind, a lot of times the closer is the first person they talk to, and then the TC is the second person they talk to, and everything that needs to happen goes through one of those two people. Whether we need
And what?
access to the property, etc., it always goes through one of those two
Yeah.
people.
And what?
Sometimes maybe the title company.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Now, I know the answer to this question, but kind of, this is, do you wholesale outside of Michigan? And I think you primarily do that, right? Or do you primarily do it in state? Like, where are your markets that you totally do?
So primarily we are based here in Michigan. So the quick story behind that. So we're here in Michigan and North Carolina, Raleigh, Charlotte, some of the Triangle area.
I used to
And
live
I've
in
never,
Raleigh and Charlotte.
oh, nice, nice. Well, you've
Yeah.
been there more times than me. I stopped in Raleigh once for a layover. So I've never actually
Oh,
been there. But so in like Estonia, I don't know if that's in the Triangle area, but we're in that
yeah.
that area, Gaston County as well.
Hmm.
So what do we? So we're primarily based here in Michigan, and so the story behind that is back in like 2019, going into 2020, we built the system set to go into like 12. We were going to go to 12 different markets, 12 states, potentially 24. Like that's what we like. Else, what else? We're just going to scale, go the national route, right?
Hmm.
And we still may do that. So we're built and designed to be able to do that pretty much at any point, right? You give us a few days, maybe a week, we can go into a new market. But
Okay.
just because of looking at, because I mean, wholesaling is, it is a starter. It's funny how the
Yep.
beginning, I talked about in the beginning where I felt like it was just like you didn't want to really do that much. I mean, it's something you want to do, but it's just a door, it's a doorway, right? When you got active income is taxed very heavily, and there's not,
Oh
and
yeah.
you're not building any like wealth really when you're just wholesaling. It's transactional. If you do 10 deals this month, you had an excellent month. If the next month you do zero,
Hmm.
nothing, right? That work you did from the month before doesn't do anything for you. So really based off that, I was like, man, we could build this crazy wholesaling machine, which I think we do okay, and we could still scale it up. But I'm like, what
Hmm.
about like the bottom line? Like, right, that's why I don't really talk that much about the whole 100 deals type of thing, because people
Yeah.
use that
Yeah.
like as a big, yeah, people use that as like, oh my God, it was a big deal for a lot of people actually. But
Hmm.
look at the revenues. So I'm looking at, okay, well, how can we actually build wealth? All right, let's buy some of these houses. Let's buy these apartment complexes, which are actually tax advantage as well. Let's buy and create a passive income from buying, like I talked about, the restaurants, drive-through
Hmm.
restaurants. For anybody on this call, if you're in Michigan, we are really big into buying drive-through restaurants, vacant drive-through restaurants. So if you drive and buy and you see one, that's vacant, snap a picture and send it to Randy, and we can get
Yeah.
connected
Most
because
definitely.
we'll buy them all day and
My number is
tomorrow.
right here at the bottom, right there.
We'll make it. We'll make it worth your while too. So I'm not just saying,
Yep.
I don't expect anybody to work for free. So if you see something, just pointing that out there. It's pretty easy money for you.
Awesome. So, Steve asked a question about, can you explain comping? Let's do a quick high level of comping because
Hmm.
I'll do a separate comping video. I'm waiting for
Okay.
my setup to get kind of right for me to do it properly but I think I want to answer this kind of more so, how does Detroit different than say the other cities that you're in, Raleigh,
Uh,
Charlotte, things like that? Because Detroit is very different. Even the suburbs are a little bit more different because we have the
mm,
tri-county area.
yep.
So how are we different than say Charlotte, North Carolina, or Raleigh, North Carolina, or anything like that?
Excellent.
Because those are the two markets you're in, right?
Right. Primarily. So, don't. So, okay. So, good questions. How does it market differ? So, in Raleigh and Charlotte, it's the houses are much more similar. Like you got these subdivisions where a lot of cookie cutter
Yep.
houses are at. It's very easy to just say, oh, like when you go to pull comps. When I remember I first started and my mentor was telling me how to comp properties, I thought something was wrong with me because I was like, dude, it's not showing up. But what you see in Charlotte and Raleigh, I would say in majority of the country, at least the major MSAs is 280 MSAs. Like it's easier because there's so much more a lot of cash transactions happen. It's very easy to run comps real quick because hey, I got a property that's four bedroom, 2.5 bath, built in
Yep.
1970. Okay, here's another one right there, a couple blocks away, and there's another one 3 blocks away, and they're
Yeah.
all around. So it's like okay, it's like going. It's literally becomes like okay, it's like pricing bread. You go to the
Yeah.
supermarket. Here's a loaf of bread. It's $1.50. And then you go to another store. Oh, I see that same loaf of bread. It's for $1.20. It's like very easy to compare.
Okay.
Here in Michigan, primarily in the Detroit area, but also like you said, overall. Number one, I was actually just talking to someone about this. Like our home structures, like Detroit is known for like the different, like the unique structures in the home. So that's actually
Yep.
something that was like it was like predicated upon that. Like that's what the thing was. It wasn't cookie cutter to begin with. You still have houses that are like cookie cutter that you can
Yep.
comp, but you have that going for you. And because of Detroit and whether it was up and down and everything that was going on, it's very block by block. I still have yet to
Yes.
see that in any other market where you're in Charlotte, you're on this street, you literally go one street over and all the comps completely change. No, that doesn't happen. You like literally in Detroit, like I only like to go out like a quarter mile if we're running comps, maybe a little bit half a mile if we have to. And then once you go out that far, you can't just say, okay, every comp in here that meets my criteria of being the same bedrooms, bathrooms, similar year build,
Yeah.
and looks the same on the outside meets. No, you got to go in there and say, okay, you got a major crossway, you got Woodward here. Okay, you got 8 Mile over here. Okay, this one's across Woodward, so I can't even use that one, even though it's literally 0.1 mile away. You know what I
Yep.
mean? You get that type of stuff happening, and that's what makes it difficult for. Like I said, I give those who come out of state a break because you come in this market, like you don't really see that where literally you got 3 houses on the same block that are sold for 250,000. Well, my house is right around the corner from it, and I'm picking it up for $30,000. Man, this is a
Yep.
steal, right?
So
And maybe
I'll give
go ahead.
a quick tip for Detroit for everybody out there. Now you already know this, but everybody else out there, when you're looking at a Detroit property, the main thing that you want to look at, I don't care about the zip code. I don't care about, yes, you want to look the zip code, that's fine, but you're not comping towards the zip code. Okay. You mainly want to look at what the neighborhood says. Then what I do is I go on Google Maps, okay, and I get maps.google.com and I type in that neighborhood name and it literally cross out exactly the boundaries of that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I look at comps. I do not look outside that neighborhood. I can't.
Yep.
I take more consideration to the comps that are either on that same block or within a couple blocks of that house, but I cannot cross that neighborhood boundaries at all.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Boston Edison, 1 block away from Boston Edison, completely
Nothing.
different comps.
Right. Right.
So that's a little tip is that, and that's one thing that I use a lot is actually maps on Google to actually draw out the boundaries, and then I'll go back to say Redfin, Zillow, or whatever, and then I'll look at the comps, within those boundaries.
Well, that's an excellent way to do it. I mean, you can't go wrong, and that's a good place to start. Sometimes things happen where, oh, within this little square, there's no comps, and now you got to go out there, you're making adjustments. But that's an excellent place to start because,
Yep.
yeah, because like I said, a lot of, unless you really know the area,
Mm-hmm.
then that's about the best you're gonna get right there. So good stuff,
Right.
man. Good stuff.
So my buddy Anik was asking about this. Are you doing anything different in the market that's changing compared to last year? So what are you doing now versus last year that you weren't because of, I mean, we all know where the market was last year
Yeah.
and where it's at right now. I mean, freaking 6 to 9 months ago where it was versus
Yeah.
what it is now.
I think we were a little bit ahead of the game because we really started getting into buy mode like mid last year. And we're just
Mm-hmm.
really good at negotiating, training the salespeople to become really good negotiators and getting deals at really good discounts. So
Mm-hmm.
that way it allows us to purchase those properties even in the hot market, right? The market, the cheese moves, you just got to move with it, zig and zag type of thing. So to answer
Yep.
your question, one thing that we're doing this year that's different, obviously we do some wholesale. When we do wholesale, we do the burr, but the biggest thing is not going to be the exit strategy. It's going to be the method in which we get to the exit strategy. So we still want to hold properties, but we're going to be
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot more seller finance, subject to creative, type of deals.
Yep.
That's just where it's at. Why specifically? Because you hear about it now. Rates are up, which historically speaking, rates are actually not that high. It's just like the media, I think. But in my opinion, but
They're just comparing it to the last years that
yeah,
it's been so low.
it's not
So there's a
2%
huge
anymore.
panic. Exactly. You
Right? It's
know,
not less than inflation anymore.
historically an average was right around 6%, you know.
Yeah. So
Anywhere between 6 and 8 is historically average, you know.
exactly. So those rates are up, but anyway, you got people all in a rage. That's why you got to look at real data and actually that's what good to have peers around you. I talked about the masterminds and stuff because
Yep.
you get people that really dig into this data and can help share this information. But the point is, the creative stuff allows us to go back in time to when rates were good. What do I mean? If you're gonna pick up, property subject to, or you do some type of a creative finance deal, and let's say you got whatever grandma's house and she bought the house whatever 10 years ago when the rates were, she got a 2-3% interest rate, and it happens to be a perfect fit for her to do a creative finance deal. You could
Mm-hmm.
take over that. You could take over that 2-3% mortgage, right? And she's happy,
Yep.
you're happy, you got an excellent rate, and there you go. So it allows you to kind of, I call it going back in time, but you know, you get the point.
Yeah. No, most definitely. So, so you guys are buying properties now, as well as wholesaling. Now, everybody wants to know, where do you get the buyers from? Okay, how do you get the
Mm,
buyers? How do you get a hold of them? Everybody's like, well, if you got a good deal, the buyers will come. Which is very true, but
yeah,
you still got to put it in front of them, you know.
100%. So
So do
how
you
good?
have a massive buyers list? Like, how did you come across them?
Um, our buyers list is like maybe 8,000 people, but they're not
Okay.
all buyers, right? I mean, you could talk big
Yeah.
stuff, right? A lot of these numbers is like fluff KPIs, right? Oh, I think I met somebody the other day, got 250,000 people on his buyers list. Now he's doing national, but point is, usually only a small percentage of those are actually buying the property.
Hmm.
So we do have our what do you call it? Our mass marketing techniques, right? Where we'll blast
Yep.
out a text, we'll put it on certain platforms, we'll send out
Hmm.
emails and just blast the deal out. We don't actually put a lot of them on social media because, at least in my opinion, that seems to be like the least effective. And some of our
Hmm.
data showed that, but we haven't updated that in a while, so maybe could be wrong. But we put it out, and when you get people, you just generate interest for people that's
Yep.
really buying. But typically we want to be target about who we sell the deal to. So we got something called our not VIP buyers, but like our what's the word? Like the people who this deal is going to be an ideal fit because we're
Preferred
doing
buyers.
invest. Yeah, like who's going to be the preferred type of buyer, not like a
Yep.
list of people. Who is this a deal for? Right. You first want
Hmm.
to be able to understand that. Right. Is this better for a fix and flip? Better for someone who wants to buy and hold? Somebody
Hmm.
who wants to buy turnkey. Now everybody's criteria may adjust accordingly based on like how conservative
Yep.
and stuff they want to be, but you want to have an idea who you want to sell it to. What we like to do is look at people that just bought properties nearby,
Hmm.
right? So that's an awesome way to do it because hey, you just bought a property, whether it was a fix and flip. Okay, yeah, you just bought this property down the street, you made 50K on it. Do you want to do it again? Sure, why
Hmm.
not? Right. So you got that type of
Right.
thing going. Same thing for like buy and hold. Um, so we look at just people who have, that's like one of our main ways is we look for people that have bought properties in that same area. There's like other paid sources and stuff that you can use. And when some of them we're still testing out, they seem to be okay, but they got a lot of people that's supposed to be interested, and we do
Okay.
sell some deals on there. But the main thing is just you want to find the people who have who are actively buying and who just actively bought in that same area. If it's
Okay.
Detroit, we try to keep it in the same neighborhood, but we'll go
Mm-hmm.
out quarter mile, half a mile, and be able to contact them.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways you can do that, 'cause I know the question is going to come up, how do you do that? It's a lot of different softwares that you can use. Like I got some, I don't know if you got a way to, yeah, you got the group. So I can send you like some links to
Yeah.
some of the softwares and stuff that we use. But one of the good ways to use is like use your MLS. And if you don't
Yep.
got access to the MLS, let me know if you want me to talk about how to get that. But point
No,
is
that's good.
you want me to talk about it? I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, yes. So if you're here, you're getting started, you don't have access to the MLS, here's an excellent way to do it. And you're not a realtor, by the way, right? If you're a realtor, you got access to it. Um, well, actually, let me finish my point. MLS, basically, you go in there, you pull comps, you find the agents who represented the cash buyers,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you reach out to them. So you pull comps for your subject property,
Okay.
and you have a button or a filter that you can select all cash buyers. You're gonna see all the
Mm-hmm.
cash deals that are sold near your subject property are quote unquote comps. And you're gonna be able to see what they sold for. So you just call that buyer's agent or selling agent is what it's called. That always confuses me when they call them selling agent. But
Yeah.
the person who represented the buyer, you call them up and say, hey, basically, do you want some easy money? I saw your investor or investors just bought a property in this neighborhood. You think they want to buy
Mm-hmm.
another one? Similar price point, similar condition, or better? Yeah. Okay, cool. Now you just built a relationship with that realtor
Mm-hmm.
who may have tens, for some reason, it seems like realtors and brokers get really good cash buyers, especially internationally and out of
Yep.
state. Something about just having that license or
Yeah.
whatever. But the point is, they may have hundreds or at least a few. You don't even need hundreds. They may have a few key people that like, yeah, I got cash buyers all the time. It may not even be
Mm-hmm.
that they might even buy. They may not even buy that deal that you were calling them about. But you nurture that relationship. So that's a really
Yeah.
good way to do it. So how do you get access to the MLS? If you're not a realtor and you're trying to figure out, something my mentor taught me years ago, you always want to lead with value, right? A lot of people in business and in life in general, they take the approach of take, take, take. And so
Mm-hmm.
they're living in a box of what can I get out of it? So they are never able to think of the bigger things that are outside of that box. But when you actually
Right.
think back and you think altruistically, like, man, how can I actually help someone? How can I improve livelihood with X, Y, and Z? All of a sudden, it
Mm-hmm.
opens up all these different methods and ways because you're not trying to tie everything back around to you. How do I make money? How do I get, you know what I mean? We're truly trying to add
Mm-hmm.
value. Anyway, I go on tangents all the time. But how do you get access to MLS? Number one, you got to remember you're an investor, right? You're getting deals. You may be doing some marketing, and you're getting off-market deals, or excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
off-market leads that come to you. And I'm just going to tell you, 95% of real estate that's sold, maybe 97%, is going to be listed on the MLS. We're not targeting the masses. We're targeting the niches. So
Mm-hmm.
what that means is out of a lot of the people that you talk to, guess what? They're not going to be a good fit for you as an investor for whatever reason. House in excellent condition. They got all the time in the
Right.
world. I'm somewhat motivated type of thing. Well, guess what? That's when you partner with a realtor and you contact a realtor and say, hey, look, I'm an investor in the area. I'm getting deals. I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at off market deals. I do my own marketing. And what I'm looking to do is build I'm building my team. And
Yep.
I would love to have a go-to agent that sometimes I get leads that are just not a good fit. They're not a good fit for me as an investor. They're really better off. It better serves that client if they're going to take a listing. And I just want to have a rock solid go-to agent that I know if I send them that listing, they're going to knock it out of the park every time. Every
Yeah.
agent is good, and you do want to vet the agent too, because you don't want to send. Because you guys can come up with little ways that you can monetize that, but you don't want to sit like at the end of the day, it's about helping the seller. So
Yep.
you don't want to send them to somebody who's not going to take care of them, right? And every agent is going to tell you that they're going to take care of them. So you do want to do some research. But when you
Mm-hmm.
position it that way, they're going to say, "Oh, yeah. If you got leads, send them to me, blah blah, etc." And you maybe sit down with them, have a conversation, and you kind of fill them out and say, "Okay, that's legit." And when it's just going back to the laws of the universe. When you come into a situation of how you can give, it's the reciprocation bias. If you do something for me, inherently I want to give something back to you. That's just the way our
100%.
minds are. That's just the way our minds work. It happens subconsciously. You don't have to think about it. But when you notice consciously, you can kind of like take advantage of it, which you got to be careful with some of these mind tricks and stuff, because it can be like taking advantage of people. So what they say, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Most definitely.
So you do that,
So,
and that's it, right? They get, the agent says, okay, I'm looking to do that. A lot of times they'll offer, well, what can I do for you, man? I know you're an investor. Can I see some investment properties? You may say,
mhm.
yeah, send me some investment properties. But all to take it, to bring the point home, all you do is end up telling them, is like, look, hey, you know what? It would be really nice. Like right now, I got my own thing that I'm doing, but it would be really nice to get access to the MLS. Some of the stuff that we're doing, it'll be nice to have access to that, so we can do what we do better, and then we can work together. And they all may even say, yeah, I can even sell your deals when you get them and all this other stuff. You just say, okay, that could be something we work out with. And,
Yep.
just kind of leave it at that. The last tip I'm gonna give you as far as that is, sometimes people say, hey, get their logins and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I would prefer you to say, look, how about I be your personal assistant? If you're a personal
Mhm.
assistant, it costs them like $40 a month or something like that. You pay for it, so you get your own access to it. And I would even offer to say, look, man, if it's that big of a deal, I'll pay for my personal assistant asset. I'll pay you actually extra on top of it, because it helps me
Mhm.
out, and it's going to actually help me help you, send you more leads.
Yep.
So let's just make this a beautiful relationship. So that's the way to get access to the MLS.
Okay. Now, one thing that I also did was I used, third party like PropStream, batch
Yep,
leads, things like that.
yep. We use that.
Whoever I'm getting my list from, things like that, usually you can get something. The issues sometimes they're not always, up to date as fast, you know. So the best access you're going to get is the MLS. That's
Yep,
100%.
yep.
So,
That's number one for sure.
yep.
PropStream we get a
So,
lot of issues with. It's harder to do certain things because like they're not showing photos and they keep messing with
yep,
the filters. But anyway, go ahead.
yep.
I'm just
No,
commenting.
that's
Go ahead.
good. So we went through the process of you getting the property, getting under contract. What about, I mean, we've kind of talked about the dispo side as far as getting the buyer, but how do you hand it off to a dispo person and say, okay, go find this buyer for this property, and what marketing material are you giving them? So,
Okay.
and if this is too much into it, by all means, just flavor it
No,
however you want. So, you
no,
know,
this is good, man. This is, I don't know, no problem. I mean, when I do these calls, man. Again, it's law of abundance, man. I
yep.
share, and to be honest, and hopefully me saying this actually inspires somebody listening here to actually go out and do more. But what I find that is that, like, if I gave away all the goods, right? Like most people are not gonna go implement it anyway. So,
No,
you know,
exactly.
you know what I mean. So hopefully you're the one that somebody's listening here is gonna be the one to say, I'm actually gonna take this and actually go do it. So I don't usually, again,
Yep.
I'm not here to try to like, oh, I'm gonna keep this under my hat here
Yeah.
because I don't want you guys. I want you to be successful. That's not gonna hurt me.
Right.
Um, so okay, so dispo side. So deal comes in. So again, TC is taking care of all of the communication with the seller. Dispo's
Hmm.
off on his own little world. He's just waiting for the go. So we got a whole ops team that puts together marketing materials, yeah, all the marketing materials for like email,
Hmm.
text messages. Like we use one called Investor Lift, which is kind of expensive, but we've been using it for a few months. It seems to be okay. Um,
Have you got
but
any
but
deals
anyway,
off that? I've heard some mixed reviews, so
yeah, I
off
think
an
it depends
investor
on
list.
where you're at. I think it depends on where you're at. Like, but it
Okay.
like for example, you're in a hot market, deals are gonna fly off the shelf. That's one thing about being able to go virtual, and that's what got us thinking maybe we will go national, because you need a good mix of, I call them secondary markets, and then the primary MSAs. Charlotte, it's
Yep.
tough to get a deal, but if you get a deal, it's sold 20 minutes,
Yeah.
hour. You know what I mean? You put it out, it's gone if you got a deal. But it's tougher and more expensive to get a deal. Here, it's easier, significantly easier to get a deal. But when you go to wholesale it, you got to work a little
Hmm.
harder. You know what I mean? You gotta really sell that deal. Um, so dispo, so they get all their documents and stuff prepared for them. They get the buyers that they need to call, like the go. That's what it was. I couldn't say it earlier. Go to buyers, right? You got your
Hmm.
go to nearby buyers who have performed already, so we don't have to worry about, are we talking to the BSers, right?
Yep.
And we contact them. So he contacts all of those individuals. Hey, are you interested in selling? Or excuse me, are you interested in buying more? Has that conversation with them, and that's like a good way that we do that. After we go through that, then like that's when deals start getting blasted out. If this deal is still available, and then we just taking it in, text messages, emails. We just taking them in, responding to them, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
We're either gonna sell the deal or we're gonna get feedback. That's the biggest thing on Dispo, because getting a
Yeah.
deal out in front of people is
Yep.
good, but the real Dispo comes in when you're able to actually sell a deal that's not moving. You're not just
Hmm.
gonna put every deal out there. I just threw an email out there. So I'm out
Yep.
here. You get a sold deal. You get a sold deal, right? It don't just happen like that, right? Some of those
Hmm.
deals do, and those are the really good deals that you probably should be keeping, right? Because everybody's hot to trot over them.
Yep.
Um, but we get that that does happen. But those deals that where it's like, man, this one ain't sold. I ain't got I got crickets on this deal. We thought this was a good deal. Those type of stuff. Start investigating, like, what's going on? Did we miss something in this subdivision? All right,
Hmm.
and then we start really pressing for feedback. We don't just we want to get 3 offers, preferably on every deal, and we want to get feedback, even if we don't get offers. If you're not making an offer, we need to know why. Hey, this is just not a deal for me, which means you probably shouldn't have been talking to that person in the first place, because it's not
Hmm.
a deal for them. It's not their problem. It's not nothing saying anything bad, but hey, it's not a deal for me. That's not the feedback we want. We want something like, man, that house smell like death, man. And we looking at the
Yeah.
pictures like, what's wrong? This house is nice. The house, or somebody got something offensive on the walls or something like
Yep.
that. Or, stuff like that. I remember my mentor told me once he had a deal, awesome deal. He's wondering, like, this down in Florida. He's like, man, why is this deal not selling? Why is this deal not selling? It's been sitting for weeks. And finally, one of the agents, because he does a strategy where he was one of the first ones that would get a wholesale deal and put it directly on MLS, which is a whole nother conversation.
Hmm.
But he was getting agents that come. He had an agent finally come and tell him, it's like, dude, it's a snake in the basement, and nowhere in hell, you know what I mean? So people coming through the house like, it's a snake, and they out of there. I ain't making no offer. Screw that house. You got
Yep.
snakes over here. So, but stuff like, so we're looking for the feedback, like, what's up with the property? And if you're not making an offer, why not? Well, what price are you a buyer? We like to ask that question a lot, because some people say, I don't care if
Yep.
you gave it to me for free. I ain't never gonna buy this property. And some people like, you gave it to me for this, because that allows us to do our work
Hmm.
for ourselves and also for the seller as well. Because at the end of the day, the seller wants the property sold. We already explained to them the
Yep.
process. So it allows us to go and do our work. Like, okay, we got this locked up too high. We need to be down here to be able to make something happen. So now we know that that's where we need to be. And here's why. That's the buyer. And when you have a good buyer, they know this, right? They giving you ammo, especially if you have a good relationship with like if you're a buyer out here, you're buying fix and
Yeah.
flips,
Oh
and you
yeah.
got a good relationship with your wholesaler. Like, look, man, I'm giving you the ammo to go back to the seller, so I want to give you the best chance of getting that property lower, so I can get it. You know what I mean? Go do your work.
Oh yeah.
This
One
is
hundred
what we're
percent.
doing.
Yeah. That's what I like to do with my buyers actually, and I try to force them. Not force them, but like I push for them. Like,
Yeah.
okay, great. If you're not going to buy this, no problem. Tell me why. Tell me where you have to be. You
Yep.
know, um, don't just give me a no. I just want to know why. It may not work for this house, but it helps me for the next house that I bring to you.
100%.
You know,
Yes, sir.
things like that.
Yep.
So,
And then
and,
one other
and
thought. Oh, go
how
ahead.
I
Sorry.
work with that. Sorry, how I work with that is when I do find something that meets that criteria, I may not even market that. I may just give them a call
Mm-hmm.
because they gave me that feedback, you know. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you want to close on this right now?
And it's a slippery slope. So that's good for relation. So we're always on this spectrum of with our buyers of relationship
Yep.
and like doing what's best for the business. If you go
Yeah.
too heavy on the relationship side, you're usually losing money, right?
Okay.
Because even in that scenario, let's say, hey, you told me this is your criteria. Now that's not a wrong thing to say what you're doing, because sometimes you may have too much going on. I just need to get this deal so quick because I don't want to
Yep.
deal with all of this. And that's the right answer. And that's okay. You have a relationship with the buyer, and that's okay. Everybody's benefiting, everybody's happy. There's nothing wrong with it. You just want to understand where you're operating at. Generally, when you got that real tight relationship and you're my VIP buyer type of thing,
Hmm.
well, you're limited to that one buyer's criteria. And that's fine. We
Yep.
all do it. where you got that one buyer just so easy to make everything happen. And so you sending them deals, and then you start to learn a little bit more, get some other buyers, and all of a sudden he's not buying any more properties. You're like, hey, what's up, man? Oh, well, your price is too high now, right? You got other buyers coming in paying more. So you just want to realize that when you're on what's easy, may not be necessarily what's most profitable, but sometimes it is.
Correct.
You start working
Yeah.
with hedge funds, or you really know an area
Yep.
not know area. You know a guy that really knows an area, and he's gonna be really easy, and he's able to like. Sometimes it's worth it. It's just you want to make
Yeah.
sure when you're operating in that mode that you understand it. We operate in that mode. We actually do it quite a bit, but we do it
Yeah.
with we're knowingly doing it. We're not just
Yep.
we're not just just like, hey, we know that we're going to give you this deal, and we probably losing $10,000-$15,000 by giving you a deal.
Right.
We're not making those decisions. So but we do it with intent is the point that I'm making.
Yeah, most definitely. And what I usually like to try to do is I try to price things to sell, as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'll take like, okay, if I know that I put it out there, it may take the right buyer 3 weeks for them to come along at the price that will make us the most amount of profit.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather take the buyer at a week that gives me a little bit less, but I'm still making profit,
Yep.
and get it sold quickly so that there's no stress on me, there's no stress on the seller. We can get a nice smooth transition,
Yep.
So everyone's policy is a little bit different. My thing is I want to make things as smooth as possible. If I can make a quick buck, that's what I'll do, and kind of go from there. But yes, sometimes in a hot market or whatever, you have to put it out there that, you have to put that out there to get the most amount of money you can. So
Well,
100% agree with that.
so that's good. I'm glad you clarified that so people can like understand the difference. Because again, it's not a right or wrong. It's just as long as you understand what mode you're operating in. Like one of my mentors used to
Yep.
say, "Slow nickel, quick nickel beats a slow dime." Right? Because we do the
Hmm.
same thing. I get what you're saying. You're saying, look, price the deal to generate interest because time kills deals. You don't want to send out a deal and put out it happens with listings a lot. You put out a property, hi, I know it's worth this, so I'm going to put it out there, and it sits and it sits and it sits, and then maybe, like you said, 3 weeks, the right
Yeah.
person comes in. You want to generate that interest quickly, so that way you do
Hmm.
have multiple offers, and now you can make the decisions to be able to make something happen.
Oh
But like
yeah.
you said, it's just that spectrum, right? We don't want to shoot for the moon on the pricing side, right? We're like, I got to be here or else. No, we want to make it to the point where it's like, this is actually a good deal.
Hmm.
And the buyers that are looking at that are saying the same thing. And now you get people that's actually interested in buying it and,
Yep.
inclined. Because if you put it too high, some people are not even going to look at it. Oh, man, what the hell are you talking about? He
Right.
doesn't know you ain't talking about, I'm out. So good
Yeah.
stuff, man, good stuff.
And to anybody out there that's watching that are virtual wholesalers in the Detroit market, my recommendation to you guys, if you're trying to lock something up, is find somebody who knows Detroit. Whether it be me,
100%.
whether it be somebody else, whether it be Phil Blake here, or whether it doesn't matter. Find somebody who knows the market. They'll look at it and tell you where it needs to be locked up at, and you can JV with them.
Yep.
So I always recommend that. And that's actually one of the reasons why I started this education, was because I was seeing a lot of virtual wholesalers actually come into the Detroit market thinking that they're like, oh, this is cheap, this is it, and they were
Right.
getting them locked up at 60,000, trying to sell them for 80,000, and it's like I only could sell that for
30,000.
45 or 35 or
Right, right.
and I'm like, you're trying to sell a frame house in Detroit for 80 grand. I'm like, that's only worth 25, you
Right.
know? So, things like that.
Yep.
So, that's the
Don't
whole
know.
reason I started this. That's the whole reason, we started this education as well. And that, I'm trying to get this out there as much as possible. And I'm being consistent about it. Every single Monday at 8 p.m., we are here. I'm bringing on a different person like yourself. where we can interview and educate other people as well, whether it be on different topics. I actually had a property manager on here a couple weeks ago, so
Nice.
that was really cool. So trying to get different people's perspectives,
100%. 100%. Which property manager was that? Do you recall?
NHL property management.
Okay. I
So
haven't heard of him.
the guy's name is Nick Sanborn. So
Nice.
awesome guy, and great to talk with. He's a real estate agent and an investor himself, and he does Warren. They do all around Metro, all around the Tri-County area. So yeah.
Nice.
So
Nice. NHL. I remember that.
yep. So
So
and they do rehabs as well. So yeah.
okay, it's all about verticals, man. The reason why I asked that because like at the end of the day, so you may start just doing one thing, whether it's wholesaling or flipping or whatnot, and then you'll quickly learn, or maybe not so quickly, but you'll get to a point where you learn that, hey, this is where I like you can like you take everything that's an expense for you, figure out how you
Yep.
can turn it into a tool into a form of income. So if you're wholesaling properties, you're a wholesaler. Okay, we start keeping some of them. Okay, if you're
Mm-hmm.
paying for property management, start a property management company.
Yep.
Right? If you always changing whatever something like whatever furnaces, maybe you own a furnace warehouse or something, like you just start to tack on all these different verticals to the point where you're evergreen, right? Every point of
Yep.
the process that exists, you're tied to it and getting paid somehow, right? Title
Most
companies and stuff
definitely.
like that as well.
So yeah, and that brings me. I'm a wholesaler. I don't own any properties. I want to eventually own some rentals because I need that tax deduction. you know,
I hear that,
need
man. It
that
only
tax
take
write
one
off.
time.
So with that, if you got any seller finance deals out there, I'm interested at a very low down payment, by the way. But if not, I know people that I can wholesale them with. We can do a JV deal, no problem. So, but I'm always interested in any type of um, seller finance deal to get in myself, you know.
Yep,
So,
100%. We're
yeah,
focusing more on that too, so I'll keep you in mind if it's any that we end up like for whatever reason
yeah,
not being the right timing for us.
most definitely. So, um, and now you were telling us earlier a little bit about you do some wholesales.
Yeah.
And so, what is the extent of work that you put into a wholesale versus a full-blooded fix and flip?
That's funny. Sometimes that line get a little blurry. So so wholesale. What is wholesale? It's you basically you're basically wholesaling the property, but you're not, right? You're getting the property, you're gonna
Yep.
close on it, and you're gonna do all the lipstick stuff. Oh, let's put some paint in here. Let's change the carpet, make it look nice and clean. Maybe a couple of vanity changes, mirror, something like that. You're not spending a lot, make it look clean, make it look good. And what your goal is to put it on the market and just let the MLS do its work, right?
Mhm.
Usually when you're doing a wholesale, unless you got a really good deal that's really good condition, usually your goal is not seeking to get like ARV. If the ARV is 250 and you pick something up at like 190 or something like that, the goal is not to get to 250. The goal is to, hey, I got it for 190. I'm putting 5, 6, 7,000 into. I'm gonna make this property look as best as it can look in its current condition, paint,
Mhm.
carpet, and and maybe fix up anything that when somebody's walking through it, the experience suffers. Like, oh, look at that. Look at you trying to get rid of those type of things, right? To make it present,
Mhm.
put it in like the show off condition, showroom condition, right? So your goal would actually in that case would be to sell that property for like if ARV is 250, you want to sell it for 220, 225, maybe 230. You want to price
So
it there. It actually may go up depending on the market
yeah.
you're in. But the point is you want to going back to Randy's point earlier, you want to price it low. You may put it at 215. That was always my first mentor's motto. He said, price it where you're gonna get interest. It
Mhm.
make it price it to the point where it hurt a little bit. He should tell me
Mhm.
to feel like you're leaving money on the table so you can generate the interest. But the point is, that's what your goal is because it's like, all right, once you like that little work, people are walking through the property, they're thinking, oh, okay, all these other properties are really, really nice, but that's like 40 grand more. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
30 grand more. This one's pretty good. Maybe I'll paint it. Maybe I'll do a little of this. I'm a
Hmm.
little handy, whatever. And people are like, I could deal with this property, and they're willing to pay that. So as a whole, from a wholesale perspective, that's generally the avenue that you're operating within. But like as I was mentioning,
So,
go ahead. Sorry.
so with that, are you gearing towards the beginner investor? Are you asking for all cash offer, or are you asking, like when you do the wholesale, are you trying to get somebody who can get in a conventional loan on it and actually just pass the loan inspection period? You know,
So man,
um,
that
yep.
this is a really good question. It takes me back years to going back to my first mentor. He used to always say, he used to always have us not even wholesaling on the MLS is the way he
Hmm.
taught us. Um, as you got to remember, as a wholesaler, generally speaking, your end buyer is going to be a cash investor, right? And you got to know when you selling or somebody who's paying cash, it doesn't have to be an investor. When they're buying cash, they're getting a discount. They know they're getting a discount. You know they're
Hmm.
getting a discount. Everybody knows. And when they're an investor, they're even getting even more of a discount. So what that does is take your wholesale fee from being like when you look at the profit, like man, I like just even look at some of the percentages. A lot of the wholesalers, I picked up a property 65%, 70%, and you make 5,000 or 10,000 on a $200,000 property. It's like, man, where's the other? Like, that's all I made on this. It's being
Hmm.
lost between fees and other people making money. You're not the end buyer is always the person that's the end user. I mean, is always the end buyer for
Yep.
everybody. You know what I mean? Everybody else is just steps in between to get there so they can make their money. So if
Hmm.
you can find a way to bypass that and go
Hmm.
straight to the end buyer, quote unquote wholesaling, now all those profits pass to you. Hence, in this example, pick up a property for 190, put maybe 5 to 7,000 into it, throw it on the market
Hmm.
for 217, 215. And
Right.
then 215 might be a little low, but let's say 220, and you generate interest. That's the big thing because people are
Hmm.
looking at that property, and let's say you sell for 220, 225. You made good money. You made more than, let's say, those same numbers. You pick up a property for 190, you do nothing to it, and you go to wholesale it. What are you going to try to wholesale it for, right? 20 grand, I mean, for 200,000. Now an
Hmm.
investor is coming in looking at that. I buy this for 200. I got to put 15, 20 grand into it and it's only worth 250 after fees and etc. There's no money in this deal. They're gonna try to offer you less than what you got under contract for.
Right.
So now you take a quote unquote no deal to a cash investor to making 20K or more on one
Hmm.
deal. So that's wholesale. And like I said, the amount of work varies for us. Sometimes we get properties where it's just like that. And then what it seems to be happening more and more is we're getting properties where it's like, oh, let's just do a little of this. We could do that. And it ends up being, we spend 20,000 on a hotel, right? And sometimes it's
Yeah.
based on the square footage of the home. But we do it to make it make sense. Wholesaling is not always the
Yep.
option. If you're going to make $10,000 wholesaling it and you do the math or numbers and it looks like you're going to make 15 wholesaling it, probably just go with wholesale because it's not really worth the extra
Yep.
work. You know what I mean? You're going to get ate up in fees anyway, so there's no point. But if you're talking about I'm going to get 10,000 on a 15,000 on a wholesale, but if I wholesale this, I'll probably make 40 or 43 or 40, something like that. I don't know what your number is, but you just start to weigh those options. The key is just being aware. You don't always have to
Yeah.
even make the best decision. You just got to be aware of I'm making this decision for this reason, and this is what I'm giving up by making this decision.
Yeah. I find it funny because some of my fix and flippers, they'd be like, okay, my minimum profit, at the end is, I got to make 30 grand. And some of
Mm-hmm.
them, that's exactly, they did their numbers and, because of our low ARVs in some of the areas that we were at, like that's exactly
Mm-hmm.
what they were making. They were making about 30 grand.
Right.
And it was taking them 2, 3 months to actually do that. And I'm like, well, I just made 10 grand on your deal,
Yeah. Sometimes
you
a quick
know?
nickel be the slow dime, man.
Yeah. And I'm like, in the time that you've done that, I could do 4 or 5 of them, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes it makes sense to fix and flip. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. And, things
Mm-hmm.
like that. So, we're at about an hour and 20. And one thing that
Oh,
I'm
top
starting to
price.
do with everybody is I want to get the last part here is I want to know what is your nightmare deal, and we can go as detailed as you want because I don't care how far we go over, it don't matter. We
Uh-huh.
go as detailed as you want. A nightmare deal, and then either the most profitable or most memorable. You choose. It doesn't matter.
All right, that's a good ones. I mean, we nightmares. We got a few nightmares. We got deals where people stole deals from us. We lost like 65,000 at the closing table. Like we were supposed to close tomorrow.
Wow.
Somebody been communicating with the seller, and we had everything good to go. And they snaked the deal. Actually, snaked it all the way. They went to the property, got the seller to quit claim deed the property to them because she was going to lose the house.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So to the point where and it got real sticky. And then even some of my mentors suggested that we don't do this, but I thought it was worth it. So we ended up getting to like suits and stuff like that. But it is what it is. So that happened. That's not a good day because you got to think, especially when you got a team of people like you.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally stealing, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
like not just stealing the deal. Like you got somebody who worked on that deal to get it under contract.
Yep.
He thought he was gonna make money. Nope, stole his money, right? And then you got the people on the
Mm-hmm.
back end, all this type of stuff. And then you got the buyer who he had lined up. Everybody, it's a lose, lose, lose. So I'm not, I don't really gel with that type of stuff very well. But I know it's people that do it. But that's,
Mm-hmm.
they probably needed that more than what we needed it. And that
Right.
everything works out for the best. But that's probably one of the worst deals. I mean, we got other deals, like even recently where deals that just drag on, or people making promises and not delivering and all this type of stuff. So
Yep.
we got checks and balance, and that's on us, by the way. That's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily on the buyer or whoever. That's on us because we need to do our due diligence on them better so that we don't get into those situations, or at least we know what we're getting into.
Yep.
So um our most profitable deal, I think I made 75K on one deal. That's probably our
Mm-hmm.
most, like we haven't had any like 100K deals. Like that's like wholesale, right? And this
Mm-hmm.
is going back a while actually, because today if we got a deal was gonna make that much, I would buy it. Um, so, but so we got deals like that.
Mm-hmm.
Most memorable deal. Let me just think here. I don't know. The bad ones always the most memorable sting because you learn from it. But let's see on a positive note. Okay. Here's one deal. So I was talking about wholesaling on the MLS and how.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when there's a will, there's a way, and sometimes things just align for you, or right when you need it. Like I'm really big into like I was talking about frequencies and like positive thoughts, but followed by the positive actions as well,
Mm-hmm.
and just manifesting your own reality. I think that we all got that power. And anyway, that's a tangent, but this is one deal. This is years ago, probably 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. Wow. So we had a deal. And like I said, for my first mentor, we were wholesaling on the MLS. Get her in the contract, equitable
Mm-hmm.
interest, put it on the MLS. Right. That's exactly what we would do.
Yep.
And we would just put for cash buyers. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we would look for, cash buyers on the MLS. And MLS is always the best buyers list. So in this case, this property, I remember it was in Dearborn Heights. It was already good condition. I mean, it was a little outdated, but it was good condition. So we
Mm-hmm.
were getting a lot of like home, like the end user, the ones
Yeah.
that because they're not trying to make money. I just want to buy the house. I want to pay the fair price, which is the retail price for it, and I want to use the product. In this case, the home. So we're getting a lot of that, and it was a deal that we put out. I think I got it under contract. I feel like it was 135 or 127. But the point is, I was thinking we're gonna put it out. Maybe we make 10 grand on it or something like that
Yeah.
because it got to be cash. Somebody get a little equity, something like that. We ended up selling that thing for 187,
Wow.
or so, and it was to an end buyer who was conventional. So this is why this one was so memorable to me because guess what? You can't assign to like when the bank sends that assignment.
Yep.
Like, and I know it's ways around. No, they don't like that don't fly, right? Assignment, what is
Yep.
this? Nah, that ain't happening, right? So you got all type of stuff you can do. I mean, you can put it in the LLC with their name. You're talking about stuff like that. You can do. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
The way that we end up doing it, we end up just putting a claim of interest on the property based off our equitable interest. So it became like a payoff. It became, it was a lien on the property, right? So, okay, if he's talking conventional mortgages and that the traditional way, okay, you got a lien on the property. Everybody gets liens on the property. Sometimes you got to pay it off at closing, just like I got to pay off the taxes or whatever. Okay, they got a lien. They're just going, okay. So it became okay to the bank. So I'm like, okay, boom, we passed that hurdle. But what's the next hurdle? When you do it that way, you're not assigning the deal at this point. You, the seller and the buyer, the seller is selling it to the buyer. So that means the seller got to see that we were selling the property for like whatever that difference was between 130 and 187 or whatever, 40 something thousand, 50,000 maybe. That was a good deal. So they got to see that. So now I'm at this point where I got to communicate. Again, let's go back to the whole communication thing. A lot of wholesalers, they don't even represent themselves properly, right? Oh, I'm a buyer, but you're a wholesaler. And that's just that's the surface level. It's all about communication with the seller and stuff like that. And this is going to help get you out of trouble. So at this point, I'm in a bind. Again, I'm solo act at this point. I'm in a bind because, all right, how do what is the right words to say to somebody to explain to them that I know that we agreed to this price, but I need you to sign this agreement that says you're selling it for this price. And don't worry, even though that number is significantly more, you're still going to get the original price. Right. The nice, and the couple was so nice. And here's the thing. So a lot of times with wholesaling, some people get the ethics and moral stuff misaligned, right? Where they're like, oh man, it's like, are you taking advantage of people? No, we want to make sure that you're serving that person. And like every deal that we do, the person's always happy. Well, I haven't yet to have anybody come back to me and say, oh, I think like you snaked me or something, right? We're actually providing win-win-win. So it's not a deal unless everybody's winning, right?
Exactly.
Now some people, minds change. I remember one deal, the seller was happy, elated that she got the property sold, and she was going to get X amount of dollars, but the title company sent her the wrong settlement statement. So it went. So her purchase price was 110. They sent her something with 121, and she was elated. And I just called her and told her like, no, it's actually going to be the 110 that we talked about, and they made an error. And then she wanted to pull out the attorneys. Which funny story about that one. She did pull her attorneys out, but the attorney that she was calling the sick on me was my attorney. Oh yeah, it was. I got a million stories, but yeah, I remember. See, you got me going back in my archive here. I remember that deal. She's a good person though. She was cool, and actually, I mentored her a little bit in how to do real estate because she told me she was like, "Oh, I want to learn how to do what you just did because that's dope." But yeah, for a minute, she was upset. Like that was like a year. That was like after, like a year or something after.
Yeah.
She told me that she wanted to, but she told me at closing, I'm gonna learn how to do this. And I was like, oh yeah, whatever. But then a year or so later, she actually contacted me. I think she's doing it now. But yeah, she was gonna sick the dog. So, oh no, you can't do this. This is that and the other. I'm gonna sick my attorneys on you. And then my attorney called me. Was like, do you know this person? I said, yeah. I was like, oh, well, I can't represent them because, So that was again, like I said,
That's
I got
funny.
a million of them. It was funny. We probably got a good laugh out of it. But going back to the deal, so I'm trying to figure out what can I say? That was a story within a story. So what can I say to these people that like, hey, I don't want, because I'm not trying to take advantage of anyone, but I don't want to do all this work for nothing at the same time. So I'm just trying to think like, man, what do I say? And I'm not trying to like lie to you, right? Some stuff you don't need to know, which I'm okay with that, right? Because it's like only going to fog the, whatever, muddy the waters up. But I'm not trying to lie to anyone. So anyway, I was able, basically the answer, which I actually found to be more often than not, is just tell the truth, right? And it's about the way that you word that. So basically what I did was I just contacted them. I said, hey, look, here's what we're going to do. Because they knew the property was listed. They knew they had people coming through the house. They was living there. They saw that. So they was cool every step of the way. It was a older couple, not like elderly, but they were like 60. They were at the point where they were ready to retire and get into a smaller house, kids out of the house, stuff like that. And so they had the showings, everything. They was cool the whole way through. And I'm like, man, this is going to bust the bubble. So I just told them, I was like, look, I'm going to come in, chat with them a little bit. They were a really nice couple. And I gave them the purchase agreement. I was like, hey, here's what's going to happen. Because basically the way that we're doing this deal, it's going to be more effective for us to have a conventional buyer buy it, which is allowing me to pay you the price that I've agreed to pay you, right? Otherwise the price would have to have been lower, right? If I had a cash buyer, they were made an offer so much, and then that would come out of their pocket. So I'm pretty
Hmm.
much telling, I pretty much told them that. So the way we're gonna do it is gonna save me time, cost. I don't have to double close and all this other stuff, which costs money, and it's also allowed me to basically work with someone who's gonna pay like retail for the property without having to worry about like you paying the closing costs versus you
Right.
paying like commissions and all this other stuff. It was like, okay, so I got them to. We started talking about upfront agreements, and this is one of my first lessons in upfront agreements. We always get agreements before we get to the thing, right? That's all in our acquisition scripts now.
Hmm.
But the point is, so I talked about that. He was like, oh yeah, that's not a problem. That's cool. Then I pulled up I remember I was so nervous. I pulled up the purchase agreement, and I was like, yeah. And before the price was, I was like, yeah, just sign, just initial here, just initial here, just initial here, and yeah, and then they actually saw the price. They even asked about it. It was like, oh, is that the price? I was like, yeah, you guys' price is going to be exactly the same, but we have to structure the deal. I was nervous. So I was like, I didn't want to try to mess things up. So I was like, yeah, we're
Yep.
going to just, it's all like, that might have been the closest I got to kind of towing the line of like not just being as direct as I could have been. But
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, no, your purchase price is going to be the same. It's just, like I said, with the structure of the deal, we have to do it this way. So that way everything works out for me and everyone else, right? Oh, okay, that's
Yep.
cool. They were legit. They were happy, right? And in the day, they got exactly what they wanted. They did a testimonial. I got to go back and find it. They did a testimonial for us. For me, they were happy. They even asked
Hmm.
at the testimonial. They were like, "So you were able to sell that property for 185?" And I was like, And so this is after it's done. So I'm like, well, I can't really dodge that question because I can't, it's a yes or no
Yep.
question. So I'm like, yep, sure did, or whatever it was when he said it. It was like, oh, well, really good for you, man. I'm really glad you're able to make, I know you worked hard and get it done for us. And they were more happy than me. I was like, so I was like, man, and then it
Yeah.
worked out. So that was probably one of my most memorable deals there,
That
just
is.
because of everything
Yeah.
that happened.
That's awesome, man. So that's one thing that actually brings me to one thing that I say to everybody I talk to
Mhm.
is, and how I go about telling people I wholesale without telling people I wholesale is I tell them I got three different strategies. I go, I go with the first one. I say, well, we fix and flip. Everyone knows what fix and flip is on HGTV, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
I say we also buy and hold, and then I go into explain, what we do is we'll go in there, we'll fix it up, and then we'll put a renter in there, you know.
Mhm.
And then I say our third option is we may, if it, we'll run the numbers, see how it goes, and we may come in and say, you know what, this may not fit us right now, or for whatever case may be, it doesn't matter. I got a plethora of investors that I work with that I may pass it along to them.
Mhm.
But before they get a chance to say anything, I come over, I go, but really quick, and I say, but rest assured, whatever we worked out is exactly what you'll get. Okay.
Yep.
And you'll be dealing with me the whole time. So you don't have to worry about changing hands or anything like that.
Yep.
So
Yep. It's just
that's kind
about.
of how I explain it a little bit. And then when they come back and say, well, what it, the buyer wasn't the person who, it wasn't you on the buyer side. I go, yeah, no, I remember that third option that I told you about that we do
Mhm.
sometimes, and I told you sometimes we don't know it going in what strategy we're going to use right away. So it may change up. We may test out different theories and see what we're going
Mhm.
to do,
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of wordsmithing and stuff that can be done, and it's cool. But a lot of times it can also be it's the nonverbal communication, right? Because I
Hmm.
remember at a time where I was always worried about somebody telling us that or saying
Hmm.
something about wholesaling, because that was what's on my mind. So that was
Hmm.
passing to them. No one ever asks that question now, because it's not like like this is where investment company. This is how it works. This is what it is, and
Yep.
boom, boom, boom. We don't even have to get into the details of we made wholesaling. We're not getting into any of that because I mean, just to tell you a quick history, a lot of people don't know that like assignments happen all the time, specifically in the commercial space. It's like it
Hmm.
happens like all the time. It's like a normal thing, right?
Hmm.
It's just in the residential space. It's like, oh, you're a wholesaler and
Yep.
etc. You're making money because you're dealing with people that are not
Hmm.
professionals on all fronts. The commercial generally everybody kind of knows. So creative finances, assignments like people are like, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah,
Hmm.
that's an excellent way to be able to wordsmith it. As long as like they're to be transparent as well. But at the end of the
Yep.
day, the seller, like, you agreed to this price, right? Mr. Seller,
Yep.
here's the process. I'm gonna whatever look at the property. I'm gonna do some due diligence. In the due diligence phase, I may have some, our contractors may have partners. I wouldn't say investors. I would just say, like in your example, I'd say I got
Yep.
partners that I work with sometimes, because at the end of the day, our goal is for you to be satisfied as a client of ours, and
Hmm.
make sure the property is sold. Sometimes we partner with other individuals. Sometimes we just do everything in house. Either way, that's
Yep.
all real estate, geometry that you don't need to necessarily, it's calculus you don't have to worry about doing
Yeah.
at this point. That's what we'll take care of. And if we got any issues, I'll let you know. But the
What? Yep.
details, people don't care. Like, a lot of times that's a reflection of ourselves, right? If you
Yeah.
feel like I got to explain this detail to them,
Hmm.
because again, go back to the doctor. If the doctor's not looking at you like, oh yeah, and I did my I got to do the Y incision. It got to be exactly this 3 inches long, and if I don't, I got to do it this way. Or I might actually have one of my nurses assistants come in because they, whatever it is, they
Yep.
don't. You don't care, and if they don't tell you that, you don't even know, and you don't even care that you don't even know. What's the
Yep.
end goal and what's going to happen? Give me the high level. I'm going to be boom, boom, boom. And yes, every so
Hmm.
often you will get that person like, what, because they know a little something, or think they know a little something,
Yep.
or heard something. They may ask more involved questions, and that's fine. But most people, unfortunately, like, maybe not the guys who are the women and men who are on this call, maybe kids, boys and girls as well, who are on this call, but a lot of people don't like to think, right? They
Yeah.
like to be told what to think. This is why the media works so effectively. For
Yep.
example, in our acquisitions, I guess this is a quick tidbit, but basically we don't ask any open-ended questions. I mean, we got some, but intentionally. But for the most part, if I ask somebody, like if I'm trying to ask you a question, Randy, I say, hey, what you doing tomorrow? What time are you free tomorrow? Your brain has to think, okay, morning, afternoon, evening, I got to do this, that, and the other, right? It's a lot more glycogen in your brain being used. But if
Hmm.
I give you the perception of choice and say, hey, what's the best time for you tomorrow? Tomorrow morning or afternoon? Your brain's not going to think about all this options. It's going to think one of those two choices. Okay,
Yep.
afternoon works best for you. How about 3:30 or 4 o'clock? Which one works best for you? Unless you
Yep.
got a true conflict, your brain is going to default because it's trying to conserve that glycogen in your brain and not think more.
Hmm.
So same thing happens with people when, like, what we're talking about here.
Hmm.
Another tangent, but I digress.
No, that's all good, man. Well, I really do appreciate it. And, awesome. What I want to do with you, maybe not, maybe some other time we can go outside of this. We'll make a separate video. Maybe we'll go
Okay,
walk through one of your properties or something and maybe talk through some of the numbers, whether it's a hotel or anything like that.
sure.
Or one that you're keeping and renting out, however it goes, maybe we can bring people along and kind of see how you do things. And I saw your live yesterday,
Mm,
or I think it was yesterday that you went out there on Facebook. It was either yesterday or a few days ago, but I saw it yesterday.
yeah,
You were
that's
walking through
proof.
a house,
That's
so
proof for TC. You can't say I don't go to my properties now.
exactly.
Right, right.
TC says that all the time.
Yeah,
He said it
right.
in the comments too, and
He
I'm
put in the
like,
comments. Oh man,
yeah. I'm
right,
like, dude, he's at the property.
right, right. Oh, on the video he did. I was like, look, man, I do go. I did that just to be able to document that to him. So,
Yep.
but yeah, you don't need to, but it's about having the right systems and people and
Yep.
processes around you. Um, I guess my last thing I would just say, look, man, at the end of the day, like you fail forward, right? You may,
Hmm.
if you're gonna fall, you fall forward. It's not really failure until you quit. I talked about that when
Yep.
I spoke at Flip Hacking Live 2022, number one real estate event of the year a few weeks ago, and I talked
Hmm.
about that. It's not failure until you quit, right? So
Exactly.
everything up to that point, temporary defeat or failure, right? That's in the
Hmm.
process of success, right? As long as you get back up and keep going, you haven't failed yet. The problem is most of society, the way things work, I'll forget the numbers, but 50% of people quit after the first failure. 80 something percent of most people are done after, I think it's like 88% of people are done after the second failure. And you're up to like
Yep.
98% or something once the third failure. And it takes multiple iterations. So as long as you keep going, even like these different paths that you can take. Yes, oh, sorry, my dog is barking,
That's
but
all right.
one path is better than, like, there's paths that you can take that may be
Yep.
faster than others. But the point is, my dog keeps barking. But the point is, as long as you're taking action, you're doing something. Whether it's mentorship, maybe no mentorship, maybe you get in there and do it and figure out for yourself. I mean, I think that's cool too. I'm biased towards getting mentorship by somebody, that's going to guide
Hmm.
you, where no matter how you get it. But
Yep.
that's just one of the important keys to success, and that's one of the things that I would share with myself if I could do it all over again.
Most definitely. Well, I'm going to say this. I I'll have you, Phil, hold on for a minute. We'll talk in just a minute as soon as I end this live here. But for
Cool.
everybody out there, we're ending this. It was awesome having Phil Blake here. First off, tell us real quick how people can get a hold of you if you want them to. That's up to you. You
Good
know.
stuff. Good stuff. So here on Facebook is good. Just Philip Blake. That's Philip with one L. Instagram, you can hit me up, Philip_Blake_REI. I am doing more on social. Randy talked about some of the lives and stuff. I'm making a conscious effort to be able to give more value to people in our community, not just in Michigan, but people who are wanting to get into real estate. I mean, you do something for 10 years, even if you do it wrong, you usually got something of value to offer. So I like
Hmm.
to be able to share those, because I don't want, you guys should all have to bump your heads the same way that I
Yep.
bump mine. And I hope that me just sharing some of these stories help you to avoid some different things, different pitfalls, at least help guide you to move forward. So Instagram and Facebook is best. And then
Awesome.
you got YouTube and stuff like that coming soon.
Sweet. Well, can't wait to see all the upcoming videos and upcoming content that you have coming. So next Monday, come out here. We're gonna have somebody else. Don't know who yet. We'll figure it out and kind of
Mhm.
go from that way. Until then, let's all do deals together and let's all make some money. All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Let's do it. Peace.